The Force is strong in this one, and that's why we're warning you that this episode contains spoilers, folks, big spoilers, for the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, some discussion about the 2017 Darth Vader comic, some other Star Wars comics, and some Legends lore also, plus theories for the rest of the show. So be warned, this is a big, big, big Star Wars conversation coming up next. Folks, we're stepping out of the airlock into the twice-baked dunes of Tatooine that are filled with ancient fish meat to discuss the first 3 parts of the Disney Plus limited series, Obi-Wan Kenobi. We start this light speed recap with part 1. We open in emotionally devastating fashion with the massacre at the Jedi Temple during Order 66. We see the Jedi Padawans falling, their teachers attempting to defend them, but all in vain. And we fast forward 10 years later. We meet the Inquisitors. We meet the Grand Inquisitor. We meet Fifth Brother. We meet Third Sister Reva. And we see them interrogating locals on Tatooine as they search for the various remnants of the Jedi diaspora who have fled the massacre and are still out there somewhere. Obi-Wan Kenobi has fully rejected his name, Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi name. He only goes by Ben now. It's not all he's rejected. We come to find out over the course of these 3 episodes that his connection with the Force is extremely weak, very, very weak. In part consciously, because clearly Ben has been so traumatized by the events and his own failure to stop the events of some 10 years past that he has willingly disconnected from the Force. Now he's earning his way as a salaried worker, butchering sand whale meat and living in a cave, watching young Luke Skywalker from afar, and trying to protect him from a distance, occasionally making contact with his brother? Are we jumping ahead? Let's not jump ahead, but Owen Lars, occasionally making contact with Owen Lars just to check in, and Owen, of course, wants very little to do
and I just want to
Ben
say,
Kenobi.
Owen Lars.
Yes.
Maybe the sassiest man in the galaxy. He
Good
is
for
delivering
him.
Some sick burns,
Yes.
which Obi-Wan Kenobi definitely deserves. If you've ever watched Star Wars, and I know that this is like a 50-50 split, 50% of people think Obi-Wan is the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah.
I understand it. I get it. The other 50% are like, what is wrong with this guy? He is useless. Why didn't he tell anyone anything? He is betraying people constantly. He is just not on it. And you know what? This is a show that is giving you an in-character, and it's Owen Lars, who's just what the fuck? Please leave my child and my family alone, because my brother is dead, and I'm just done. And it is great to see it.
It's fantastic. We go from here to Alderaan, where in an absolutely shocking, at the time for me, development, we meet the young Princess Leia Organa, who is precocious, not one to listen to any kind of direction from any kind of adult figure, and just loves being out here running around in the woods. I was not expecting this, and it was amazing.
It's so amazing, and I have to give a big shout out, because if you listened last week, you would have heard us talking about Kathleen Kennedy saying, we can never recast the character.
Yeah.
I want to give Kathleen 500 stars for her incredible red herring interview that she gave to Vanity Fair, because I was like, the only thing I want in my life is a young Princess Leia show. How will we ever get that if we can't recast? And someone at Lucasfilm was like, ha, 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 ha. Well, here you go. I mean, this show is so good, even by this point, which you're 15 or 20 minutes in, I was like, okay, Ewan is a workhorse. He is selling this. This is unbelievable. But the moment that we're in Alderaan and you see these kind of people dressing a young princess in this costuming that is so obviously Leia, I immediately teared up. And then when you see this character and this actress, Vivian Lyra Blair, she is one, definitely named after Northern Lights by Philip Pullman, and two, she is just so evocative of everything that made Leia so great. She has like this attitude and just this
Big attitude.
This sassy but chill, and also like doesn't give a fuck. Like it's so good, and I can't believe that Disney stealthed us once again. But instead of Baby Yoda, this time it's Baby Leia, and I love it.
Despite being directed to not run away and go run through the woods again, she goes and does it anyway, and is waylaid by a group of bounty hunters led by Vec Nocru, a.k.a. Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's quickly revealed that Nocru's gang was hired by Reva of the Inquisitors to lure Kenobi out of hiding, which is our first hint that Reva is obsessed, for whatever reason, with finding Kenobi, Bail Organa, Jimmy Smits still collecting checks after all these years. This guy could not.
Jimmy, they knew it. They needed
They
him back.
knew it, baby. Jimmy could not look more thrilled to appear on screen in yet another Star Wars story. I absolutely love it for my guy. He contacts his old friend, gets a message to his old friend Obi-Wan, saying, "Listen, I need you. I need you. Have to. You're the only one that I know who can do this. Please help me." And Obi-Wan, who has spent all these years trying to reject his identity as a Jedi, his connection to the Force, gets on a transport with his lightsaber to head off and try and find Princess Leia. That brings us to part 2. Obi arrives on Daiyu, which is an urbanized planet where all off-world communication and signals are essentially blocked. This is a crime planet where anything goes. Spice dealing, spice trading, creature, alien, human trafficking. Obi is met by a kid named Jaco. He's kind of like a street smart young street urchin kid. He's like, do you need a Jedi? I know a Jedi if you're looking for, if you need something, some kind of mission accomplished. Guess what? I know a Jedi. Obi's like, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I'd like to meet a Jedi. It turns out this Jedi named Haja Estri is really just a con man. He's doing good, helping people get off planet when they really need to get off planet. But he's doing it for money, and of course he has no affinity with the Force. He just has some decent sleight of hand skills and some really powerful magnets. Obi-Wan exposes Haja, forces him to help him find Leia. Later, Obi still somewhat tentatively in contact with the Force, manages to follow his feelings to a spice lab run by some kind of organized crime group. He gets in there, blows up some beakers for distraction, heads deeper into the building, has a fight with a Dathomirian and a human, and then he finds this room that he's looking for, but of course it's a trap. Vec Nocru and his henchies show up. They start beating the shit out of Obi-Wan, but then Obi-Wan throws a flask of spice on the ground and puts on a mask so he doesn't get high off spice, and he escapes. Finally, deeper in the complex, he finds Leia, and the young princess is like, who the fuck are you? Like, who are you? I don't know you at all. You're here to rescue me? You're one fucking guy. Where's the army? Why is it my dad sent the army in here? And it's a wonderful mirror of the events of A New Hope when later on, Luke Skywalker will come to rescue him and be like, you're here to rescue me? And equally interesting mirror of, here's Ben Kenobi rescuing a Skywalker, but it's not the one you expect. It's Princess Leia this time.
And I know that a lot, like, some people had been like, oh, isn't this like a plot hole? Because like before she just mentioned that he knew her dad. But actually, if you think about it, in that moment, when Luke comes in and he says Ben Kenobi, she knows who that is.
Yeah.
In A New Hope. She doesn't need it to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is what she says on her little, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Reva finds Vect, of course, the people that she hired to do this kidnapping job, and she finds them absolutely deluded on spice, and she realizes, aha, Obi-Wan must be close. Reva catches up with Obi and Leia at the cargo port. Obi's like, Leia, go without me. Just go, get to the ship. I'll meet you there. Obi's connection, as we mentioned, is with the Force is very tentative. Reva is kind of searching for Obi amongst all the cargo, and she's trash talking him, and she mentions that Lord Vader has been looking for him, and then
You didn't know. He's alive, Obi-Wan. Anakin Skywalker is alive.
it is in this moment where Obi-Wan realizes that Anakin Skywalker survived being maimed on Mustafar,
By
laying
Obi-Wan
on
Kenobi.
laying on a field of lava. His mission was to stop Anakin Skywalker, to stop the threat of the Sith to the galaxy, to kill him. Obi didn't do it. He walked away. He didn't make sure. He thought maybe the deal was finished and he couldn't bring himself to actually finish him off. He walked away. And it's in this moment, almost 10 years after those events, that he learns that Anakin Skywalker is alive and has been looking for him. And it is an absolutely terrifying and incredible moment, which leads us to wonder. So this is something we've been talking a lot about and wondering a lot about in our pre-production meeting and our calls. Man, not a lot of people at this time know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. The fact that Reva knows and is just throwing the name out there is very notable to me. And as we're going to talk about in part 3, she seems to have a special relationship with Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. So did Anakin save her from the massacre? Did he take her under his wing? How does she know, and how does she feel so comfortable just revealing this? Because this is a big deal.
I think that Anakin, as we know him, even in his Darth Vader form, especially if you've read those Darth Vader comics, you know that there is still an internal battle going on. He has accepted the dark side, but he feels guilt, and he does wonder about, you can tell that he wonders about what could have been, like this different path he could have gone on. And I wonder if he saved Reva and potentially other younglings, because that him killing those younglings was the moment he turned to the dark side. And that is kind of, I wonder if there is a level of reflection and guilt there. And also this fits in very well to this comic book version of Anakin / Vader that we met, who can have these unexpected alliances with people like Dr. Aphra.
Yes.
Like, there are relationships that can be built there, even in this person that we thought was this cold-blooded, cold-hearted, fully dark side person. No, this is still the era where he was able to make connections with people. He was able to make alliances. Yeah. And Reva knows, she knows before Obi-Wan. Like, that's his brother, his lover, whatever way you read it. Like, that is the person he was most connected to. And we get to see that as, like, the episode ends in, like, give Ewan all the awards for that final scene.
Yeah, it's all there on his face, and it's truly shocking. As this trash talking's happened, the Grand Inquisitor shows up, and he's like, "Aha! I caught you, Reva. I caught you disobeying my orders, trying to bring in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to show you how it's done." And Reva's like, "Nope." And she stabs him through the gut, killing him. No, he's actually fine.
He must be fine. We know that because of the canon.
Yeah, we know that because of Rebels and then the other canon comic book stuff. I won't say what his fate is for those of you who want to take that journey. It's a really fun one. He ends up leaving the story in a very interesting way. I'll just say that. Mm-hmm. But he is still alive right here, although the show is clearly playing very coy with it for those who are just into the live action, haven't done the animated stuff or the comic books, and aren't aware of what goes on with the Grand Inquisitor. He is out here for a number of years later, being incompetent yet again. In the cargo ship, Obi feels his old pupil Anakin reaching out with the Force, and then far away in Fortress Vader on Mustafar, in his bacta tank, Anakin's eyes open, and we get chills. Oh my God, what a moment!
Yeah, Obi-Wan says, "Anakin," and then we hear the James Earl Jones. He's back. Love that guy.
He's back, baby.
91 years young. giving us the Darth Vader voice
and
we
the
need.
pipes sounding as strong as ever.
That moment is just like, I already thought, I was like, they got me with these first 2 episodes. I didn't know how I was going to be feeling about this show, but baby Leia, like, I love this. This is everything I want. Obi-Wan, who's introspective. But that moment when they reignite that connection and you remember why the prequels have stood the test of time, why these characters mean so much to people, that connection between them is just like, that's like they felt like a historic moment in
really
Star
did.
Wars, but also in like prestige TV. Like Deborah Chow's doing such a brilliant job with these episodes. And that framing of Ewan's face and then seeing that reflection of the bacta tank and the eyes opening, you know that Darth Vader has been in his suit all the time, like living as Darth Vader, right? That's the notion. But in that moment, it almost makes you feel like he's just been in the bacta tank for 10 years waiting to hear Obi. You know, it's like it feels that huge, that monumental. I mean, that's got to be that is like, Disney always does a good job teasing with the episode amounts that they choose, whether it's 3, whether it's 2, whatever. That's got to be the hook where you're just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, it hooked
I
me.
was like,
and very
I need
smart
that
to
episode now.
Very smart to just drop those 2 first, and that takes us on to part 3, released this week. On the cargo ship at Adayu, Obi-Wan meditates on these recent and very, very troubling events, including the revelation that his old Padawan Anakin Skywalker is alive and is doing a lot of mass murdering across the galaxy as Lord Darth Vader. Ben tries to connect with the spirit, the energy of his old master Qui-Gon Jinn through the Force, but his connection is just too muddled. It's too weak still. He is inundated instead with these troubling images and memories. He sees Darth Vader emerging from his bacta tank, suiting up. He hears and remembers snippets of conversation from his clash with Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith on the slopes of Mustafar and elsewhere.
I do not fear the dark side. I see through the lies of the Jedi.
They arrive on Mapuzo, which is an out-of-the-way mining system, kind of like the industrial heartland of the Galactic Empire. They follow Haja's coordinates to the meeting point to find their contact, and they set out walking in that direction. Ben is growing more and more concerned with Leia's trusting nature, her instinct to see the world is like inherently good, and he snaps at her a little bit. It's like, everything is not good, Leia. Everything around us is not safe and good. He had just, I should add, seen a vision of Anakin standing on a hillside right before this.
Yeah, our first glimpse of Hayden and possibly why they recast Hayden and how we're going to see that come more to the fore. Yeah.
We will talk about this, talk about that exact thing more. Ben and Leia on Mapuzo agree on a cover story. If they're asked, they are visitors from Tal, and Leia's name is Luma. But also, Ben is like, don't talk. Just don't talk at all. You talk a lot. You have a propensity to get involved in conversations with people, and just please don't do it. They arrive at the coordinates for the meeting, and no one's there. Nothing, nobody, what to do next. Leia's like, I know, I see a truck. I'm going to flag him down. Ben is like, is that a good idea? But Leia's already doing it. Flags down the driver. His name is Freck. And Freck is a big, big fan of the Empire. He loves the Empire. He thinks
he's
it's
like,
great.
what's wrong with some order? He just
What's wrong with a dollop of order in the universe? Didn't we need that? I think we needed it. And I think the universe is better for it. Good Imperial people. I love it.
He's loving it. But he's also like hilariously friendly. Yes. Like he's just like a really chill guy.
On the road, a squad of stormtroopers hails Freck to catch a ride. They know him well. They know him as a lover of the Empire. The troopers, it turns out, they're on the lookout for a Jedi. There just happens to be a guy riding in the truck with him dressed exactly like a Jedi.
But you know what? They don't even worry about it.
They don't worry about it too much.
Terrible at finding Jedi.
They are very, very bad at it.
And they are tired. I have to say, this is like another thing I think this era of Star Wars, even from like the new trilogy, has done really well is like building in a little bit more humanity
Yes.
for whoever's in the stormtrooper suits. And these stormtroopers are battered.
They're
they
dirty.
Are tired.
They're-
They have
yeah.
to get a freck hitchhiking.
Yeah, they
list
can't even
because
get them.
nobody
They can't
picked
even
them
give
up.
them. They don't have a vehicle for them.
They
No
are
speeders.
tired.
They're just
Like,
walking around.
It was hilarious, yet absolutely believable in the context of what we see. That they kind of just don't. Even when what happens next happens, you believe it,
Yes.
which is impressive.
So they question Ben a little bit. Where you from? What's going on? He's like, I'm from Tall. We're here because her, this is my daughter Luma. Her mom's people are from here, and so we were just visiting. And then Obi fucks up and uses Leia's real name, but then covers it up by saying, her mother again just passed, and that was her name, and things have been really, really, really tough since then. But in this conversation, Leia, again, a Force-sensitive person who just instinctively can empathize, as you said, Rosie, with people and feel things. She knows that Ben knew her real mother, and she can tell that he's been hiding something probably related to that, but whatever it is, it's certainly painful. The troopers get off the truck, and Leia asks Ben, are you my real dad? Like, is that what's going on here? It is a really sad moment, by the way.
And he's like, the saddest thing is he's like, I wish. And I'm like, so does everyone else who watched those
So
movies and
believe me.
wished that you were the more age-appropriate pairing for Padme. But yeah,
that would have
like,
been nice.
They did such a good job in that moment. And again, Ewan kills it. Like, the chemistry between them is perfect. And it's another bit of that great storytelling where you can just... The reason Leia knows is because, like, when he is looking at her and saying the stuff, we miss her mother, it's true. It's just about Padme,
Yeah.
And when he's like, yeah, like, I wish I could say I was or whatever, I was just like, wow, that is like so real.
It
And
is
then we
very,
get
very
like
real.
a huge Obi-Wan moment as well, which
Well,
is just mind-blowing.
here we go. So Ben is like, listen, he doesn't tell her, of course, who her real dad is.
Yeah, and he like
But
derails it with his own emotional story.
He is like, hey, but listen, I know what it's like to wonder who your real parents are. The Jedi came for me when I was very young. I still have snippets of memories of, my mom and my dad and my brother. Wait, what?
What?
Boom,
this-
boom, boom.
This is like, I absolutely love these shows, yeah. I'm sure that they're just doing what the Marvel shows do, where they just like throw in some like canon that if it was legit would be absolutely explosive. So kind of like the notion of Obi-Wan's brother is like a huge controversial fandom drama, and it goes back to the Return of the Jedi novelization by James Caan, where it is claimed that Obi-Wan is the brother of Owen Lars, who we know raised Luke Skywalker with Beru. Now, that essentially stayed in the expanded universe canon. It was referenced multiple times. It was built on it. Sometimes I think he was referenced as he was his stepbrother maybe. But basically that stayed in that expanded universe canon as a truth until Attack of the Clones. Because in Attack of the Clones, we see younger Owen Lars, who's younger than Anakin, and he says,
I guess I'm your stepbrother. I had a feeling you might show up someday.
So in Attack of the Clones, Shmi, who is Anakin's mom, who is left by Qui-Gon Jinn, she marries the guy who bought her, and then that makes Anakin and Owen Lars stepbrothers in the current Star Wars canon. But saying Obi-Wan Kenobi remembers having a baby brother is gonna make fans go, oh my god, especially with the sassy relationship that Owen...
It is clearly what they are hinting at.
Yeah, they want you... could it come to something? It could. I mean, the notion of Obi-Wan Kenobi telling Anakin, you are my brother, Anakin, is like one of the most famous moments in Star Wars history. So I would be interested to see if they wanted to try and find a way around canon to to make something of that connection between the three of them and to make him more of a canonical family member of Luke and Leia. But that was such a huge moment. Like, I was yelling because it's like they wanted to set the fandom on fire. I haven't even really been on the internet today, and I'm sure there's like 500 articles about that, because that was just like, oh my God.
The truck continues on its way. Freck stops at a checkpoint, and he gets out, and he warns the troopers that are manning the checkpoint that, hey, you might want to take a look at my passenger. Something weird about that guy. Oh, shit. Ben pulls up his hood so that he can look specifically very much more like a Jedi than he already did. I don't know if that was the right move. Things go sideways really quickly, and the Inquisitorius probe, one of the probes that they sent out across the galaxy, shows up and scans Ben's face. He shoots it, but not before it can upload his information to the Imperial Cloud. There is a shootout. Ben takes out the stormtroopers, but unfortunately another squad of stormtroopers pull up, and it looks like it is curtains for our friends Ben Kenobi and the young Princess Leia. But then, of all people, the Imperial officer who arrives with that squad of stormtroopers by the name of Tala saves Ben and Leia. Turns out she is a double agent, so to speak. There's no real rebellion at this time, but she has been working to undercut the Empire in any way that she can. She takes them to a safe house, which is a stop on an escape route for Jedi on the run, Imperial dissidents, Force-sensitive children, called The Path.
Yeah, and this is a really cool... The path leads to a planet called Jabim, and Jabim is like an old Legends stalwart planet that was always getting mentioned in comics and books, and there was battles on Jabim. But it's a relevant place. If you've read the Legends stuff, you probably recognize it. And I think that's just another really cool way that these shows are kind of building in that expanded universe world. And of course the canon animation stuff that we're seeing like plays such a huge part here.
And they start to go down the tunnel to escape. But as soon as they do that, Ben feels a malign, evil presence. Darth Vader is here. And you hear screams outside. So they go to peek outside to see what's happening. And what is happening is an absolute horror show. Vader is killing anyone who is around in order to lure out his old master, hoping that he will, that's what we expect from a Jedi, right? Seeing this, Jedi would ignite their lightsaber, go out there. Ben instead says, listen, you, Tala, take Leia, get out of here. And then he goes out, but he doesn't go to face Darth Vader. He just runs. He runs away. In a quarry somewhere near the town, he comes face to face with Darth Vader. But again, he's reluctant to face him in battle, and Ben flees. But he can't go far enough. He knows that he can't escape Darth Vader, so he ignites his lightsaber very reluctantly, and he comes face to face with Darth, and he says,
"What have you become?"
I am what you made me.
It's so true and so sad. When he said that, I was just like, there is writing in this show that's like, it's so simple, but it's just that in that, 6 words, that is every guilt and fear and sadness that Obi-Wan has, because he knows it's true.
Yeah,
like that is the truth,
He failed, the Jedi failed, their
Jedi
philosophy failed, their ability to do their job, to bring order to the galaxy and fight the Sith and keep them at bay. They failed at it in the most tragic way. They failed this young Force-sensitive Padawan who became a Jedi, who became a Sith Lord. They failed to help him along his way, and now, not only that, but Ben failed in the moment when he needed to have steel in his heart and he needed to strike Anakin down. He didn't do it. And now he is faced with the consequences. Darth Vader, who has been mass murdering across the fucking galaxy. Darth can feel in the midst of this duel how weak Ben has become with the Force, and he's almost disgusted by it. He toys with his former master rather than strike him down immediately. He instead sets him on fire. He sets a fire on the ground and then, holding Obi-Wan above it, slams him down with the Force into the fire and then drags him across it. It's brutal.
Your pain has just begun.
But before Darth can take Obi-Wan prisoner to further torture him, it's very clear.
Yeah, because he said, he was like, I'm not going to, he's like, your pain is not over yet. He's like, I'm taking you with me.
Yes.
You're going in a Bacta tank.
We are going to extend this pain. You are going to continue to feel it. But before that can happen, Tala and her droid Ned come to the rescue. They manage to spirit Ben away. They blow up a tank of some kind of explosive crystals. And now Darth Vader and Obi-Wan are separated by this fire, much like they were on Mustafar, separated by fire yet again. And they manage to spirit Ben away. Darth is foiled. There's the classic Darth Vader staring at the thing that he now cannot have and then turning away in disgust. Foiled again, but not for the last time, surely, in our story. Tala then tells Ned, get the transport ready. We're taking Ben. We got to get Ben to Jabiim. Leia continues down the tunnel where she's to meet her contact that will take her to Jabiim, but instead she finds Reva, who says, I'll take you from here. Bum, bum, bum. Man, what
that
a
is a stunning
bone-chilling,
episode.
Stunning action from end to end. Some questions remain, which we will continue to think about. I think that it's almost a for sure thing that at some point Ben Kenobi will accept his name, Obi-Wan Kenobi, in some moment of triumph, right? And I think that a precursor to that must be his successfully contacting his old master, who he failed to contact at the beginning of this episode, Qui-Gon Jinn. We will see Liam Neeson in Force Ghost form, right? I feel like that has to happen.
That's definitely going to happen, and I think a big journey that Obi-Wan's going to go on in this episode. And we're halfway through the season now, but I definitely do think that he is going to go on that journey to reconnect with the Force. And I think that it will probably be somehow connected to Anakin/Vader. Like, I also wonder if Vader will, like, mockingly use his name or mockingly call him Ben, and he'll sort of reclaim Obi-Wan. But I'm very interested. Definite Force Ghost Qui-Gon, which is going to be like, they'll have to do some narrative shifting to kind of, and some playing with some stuff to make that possible. But I definitely think that's where we're headed, especially because right now we know his connection to the Force is weak, and we're going to need a really visible way to see that it's growing stronger. And I think it's going to be by connecting to his master.
It is so tragic to see him this disconnected from the Force, this, running from his former student. This is the guy who went toe-to-toe with Count Dooku, went toe-to-toe with Grievous, General Grievous.
Grievous, the best.
Went toe-to-toe time and time and time and time again with Darth Maul. And now here he is, unsure if he can hold his own with Darth Vader. It's really, really tragic. But you feel like we've got to see him. At the end of this, Obi-Wan will be Obi-Wan again. You mentioned Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader. It feels like, listen, you don't cast Hayden Christensen just to put him in the Darth Vader armor where we never see his face except like in the Bacta tank, behind Bacta bubbles, and without even hearing his real voice. James Earl Jones, again, sounding stronger than ever, doing the voice of Darth Vader, which leads me to wonder, does the helmet come off? Does it get damaged? Does he take it off? Does Obi-Wan knock it off? Does it come off in the midst of some kind of fight? Or do we get a flashback, some kind of scene of Darth in his own mind connecting with the Force and meditating in that way? We saw there's wonderful panels in the Darth Vader comic of Darth meditating, and you see him on some kind of Force realm, Force plane, surrounded by fire and red, angry energy, but also these little blue Force butterflies, which we are meant to interpret as like the
That's
little
such
kind
a-
of like
yeah.
pinpricks of the light shining through in the darkness. I wonder if what we see
I
to
think
allow
it's
us
a
to understand
version-
why Hayden has been cast in this.
I think we get versions of both. I think that
Yeah.
there's almost certainly going to be some kind of human connection between the two without the mask. I think that's likely. But I also think that some kind of force plane, we talked about World Beyond Worlds. I
Yes.
think that there is this bigger notion of what the force can do and how it can connect us. We saw it with Rey and Kylo when they were force, like FaceTiming each other and being in the same space. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a version of that where Anakin is Hayden, and Ewan McGregor, and that is where they connect and where they speak to each other. Some kind of meditative force plane where they both still see him in that way, which would make
Yeah.
sense. Also flashbacks, but I do think that because of the nature of the prequels and them existing and them being so key, I don't know how much literal flashbacks we'll get, but I definitely think that it's not just going to be Hayden standing for a moment in his cloak, like we saw in this episode. I think there's definitely going to be more to his role, and I'm really excited to see where they go with it, because they're definitely leaning into the emotion of this story that kind of means so much to fans, and also is so key to kind of why people love Ewan so much as Obi-Wan.
Reva, it feels like we got to find out what her deal is with Obi-Wan, what her connection to Darth Vader, whatever that is, what kind of special relationship she has with Vader, seemingly has with Vader, what the nature of that is. But also it feels like, listen, what is one of the core themes, devices of Star Wars is someone in the dark being pulled back to the light. And Darth Vader tells her, listen, you can be the Grand Inquisitor if you succeed, but if you fail, guess what? And it feels like Reva is at the end of all of this. We know that the Grand Inquisitor, spoiler, is still alive because he exists in canon going forward, and he's still in that position. So it feels like Reva doesn't get the job, i.e. she fails. Meaning, at some crucial moment, does Reva turn away from the dark side, do something good, finally, and is struck down by Darth Vader, or someone dies in that turn to the light? It feels like that will happen. It feels like we got to see
I think that's really likely. My hope would be that she gets to live on in some kind of Obi-Wan-esque self-imposed exile rather than dying. But she does that good thing, and it pits her against Anakin. And it seems quite likely that she may die, but I think that they're trying to recontextualize how they kind of play into those tropes. So I hope we could see something else. But I definitely think a turn to the light side is likely, especially because, like you said, the Inquisitors are not Sith. They are dark side users. They are, and that is long been a controversial space in the Star Wars canon of this, like, someone who can use both sides of the Force, and what does it mean to do that? And I think it'll be really interesting to see. I think that the blue butterflies is a great nod of this importance of the light side that's still able to be there. I think Disney actually did like a kids cartoon that had Kylo Ren, and he was playing with blue butterflies when he was a baby, and there was a lot of talk about, like, what did that mean, and what do the blue butterflies mean for somebody who's going to turn from the dark side and eventually turn back to the light. So I think that's a really great, I wouldn't be surprised to see a few fluttering by. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where Reva's journey goes, because it feels like her anger towards the Jedi is likely very justified. I think that the
Jedi fucked up in a million different ways, so we could go on and on. Yeah,
of the Jedi is key to the even Obi-Wan talks about it for the first time. We really hear someone say, I was taken away from my family as a child, and I was raised by the Jedi, and they became my family. But that's still not a great way to run a society or like a strange elite force. So I'm really interested to see where Reva's story goes. And also, Reva seems to me like a character who's ripe for like a comic book and a book
Yeah.
and all kinds of things exploring their story more. So I'm excited to see how that gets expanded out in canon.
And then finally, we're in this age of bringing in these characters from the extended Star Wars universe into the live action space. We saw Black Chrysanthemum, of course, in Book of Boba Fett, and Black Chrysanthemum, of course, is known to work closely with Dr. Aphra, the kind of independent and fierce and trash talking archaeologist who's kind of in a moral gray area, but a really fun and independent character. I think all of us are expecting at some point in time, and we were expecting in Book of Boba Fett that maybe Dr. Aphra would show up. And I think other people have said this, but we're waiting for Maya Erskine from Pen 15 fame to show up in this story, and it feels like if you wanted to cast Dr. Aphra, you could do a lot worse than Maya Erskine.
When you said
And
this,
the timeline is right. The timeline is right. If that were to happen.
Yeah,
And
when you said this, I was just like, I need this to be the case because that casting would be so brilliant. And also, it speaks to why you would have to have Hayden. Because if you have Aphra, then you likely have a relationship between her and Vader, a antagonistic alliance of survival that needs, and that would be a very interesting use of Hayden. And it would also deal with one of the biggest issues with doing Aphra in live action, which is she needs to be alongside Vader at some points.
Right.
So if you do it now, if Hayden doesn't necessarily want to come back and be Vader again, you don't have to deal with that issue. You can just have Aphra, and you've already established that connection here. I love this casting. I am like crossing my fingers because he's very under the radar. You were like, I'm sure people have said this, and I googled it, and maybe like 2 or 3 places, and not like the usual kind of suspects said maybe this could be the case. So I am crossing my fingers because that Pen 15 is so great, and Maya is just like a fucking talent, and it would just be such good, cool, funny, smart,
really
casting.
funny, really smart. For those of you not up in Dr. Aphra, check out some of the Dr. Aphra comic books, the Marvel Star Wars comics. She's got her own title, and I'll just say that her relationship with Vader, we talked about these unlikely alliances that Vader strikes for reasons that are hard to unpack sometime. They seem like purely ambitious to further his evil ends, but they also seem to hint at something else. And the relationship they have and Aphra's courageousness and the way she deals with Vader is really unique. And it would be great if
it
that
would also
was
be like
to bring in Aphra here.
That would be such an interesting counterpoint to the fear that Obi-Wan currently has, to have that kind of fearlessness. And it would be an interesting reflection of Reva too. This kind of person who can ally themselves with Vader when they need to. Yeah, I am hoping that's like my biggest one. I mean, everything else about this show, like, unless it's going to be some weird deep cut thing that only I care about, they're already delivering, like the young Leia, the introspective Obi-Wan. So that's now that's my pet theory. I'm manifesting Maya as Dr. Aphra.